Today, calling from your car is nothing special. But back in the 20th century, it was science fiction. A phone in your car meant wealth, power, and a glimpse into the future. So why didn't it stick around? The first car phones appeared in 1946 in the US. They worked through analog radio channels, and they were massive. The equipment could weigh over 30 kilograms. One call would occupy the entire frequency in the city. Monthly costs were 10x higher than a home phone. The system could handle only a few dozen users in each area. It was extremely limited and expensive. In the 1980s, analog cellular networks brought us the car phone boom, phones permanently installed in luxury vehicles. You'd find them in Cadillacs, BMWs, Lincolns. They used external antennas and dedicated radio boxes. Many had a classic handset next to the gear shift. It was the ultimate status symbol like a Rolex, but for your dashboard. But problems remained. The signal worked mainly in big cities. Poor coverage outside urban areas. Installation could cost $3,000 to $5,000. Despite all the hype, car phones never went mainstream. Why? Too expensive, affordable only for the elite. Weak coverage, unreliable outside cities. No mobility, the phone was stuck in your car. Portable phones took over. In the early 1990s, compact mobile phones arrived and made car phones obsolete almost overnight. Some car phones in the late 80s and early 90s had surprisingly advanced features. Auto redial. Today, it's hard to imagine a car with a full-width front seat, like in those old movies. But back in the day, that was the standard. Why did cars have front bench seats, and where did they go? Front bench seats were the norm in American cars from the 1920s through the 1970s. They were wide enough to fit 3 adults comfortably, just like a living room sofa. This design was inexpensive to produce, provided a feeling of space, and matched the home-style comfort that people valued during that era. Bench seats offered freedom and intimacy. Couples could sit side by side without a center console or armrest getting in the way. They also made it easier to get in and out. No need to climb over a center tunnel, because there wasn't one. In cars with automatic transmissions, the gear shifter was placed on the steering column to keep the front floor area clear. By the 1980s, separate bucket seats had become the new standard, for several reasons. First, safety. Bench seats didn't hold the driver in place well during a crash. Second, the rise of center consoles, with armrests, storage compartments, and cup holders, made the bench layout obsolete. Cars were also getting smaller, and ergonomics more important. Bucket seats simply held the body better, especially in corners. More comfort, more control. Bench seats lasted longest in American pickup trucks. Some models kept them into the early 2000s. Why? Practicality. You could still seat 3 people up front. Today, you'll only see front benches in vintage cars, limousines, or custom builds. For many, they're a symbol of nostalgia, a throwback to the golden age of American car design. Front bench seats weren't just a design choice, they were a reflection of a different era. One where comfort and style came. There was a time when every car wanted to stand out. And one of the biggest symbols of prestige and style was the hood ornament. They came in all forms: eagles, goddesses, ships, arrows. But where did they go? Why are modern hoods bare? Let's find out. Hood ornaments first appeared in the early 20th century. Initially, they were just radiator caps, but soon, car makers began turning them into true pieces of art. Rolls-Royce introduced the iconic Spirit of Ecstasy, a graceful figure of a woman with flowing robes. Cadillac, Buick, Mercedes, all tried to express the spirit of their brand through their hood emblems. Back in the days when design mattered more than aerodynamics, these ornaments became calling cards for cars. They represented status, luxury, and often the philosophy of the brand. Today, collectors still hunt for rare originals. From the late 1970s, hood ornaments began to fade away. Why? Safety. Ornaments became a danger to pedestrians during collisions. European safety regulations began banning them or required them to retract on impact. Aerodynamics. Modern cars are designed in wind tunnels. Any extra piece sticking out creates drag. Theft. Hood ornaments were often stolen. Some Rolls-Royce models introduced retractable mechanisms to protect them. Changing tastes. Design became more minimalistic. People started to appreciate clean lines and subtle styling instead of flashy decorations. Today, you'll mostly see hood ornaments on classic cars or in museums. But that's part of their charm. They're relics of a time when cars weren't just transportation, but when we think of vinyl records, we imagine a cozy room, a comfy chair, a turntable, and the soft crackle of the needle on the groove. But did you know that in the 1950s and 60s, you could actually listen to vinyl inside your car? In the mid-20th century, companies like Chrysler and RCA came up with something truly revolutionary: a car-mounted vinyl record player. In 1956, the first model appeared, the Chrysler Highway Hi-Fi. It was installed under the dashboard and played specially made 7-inch records at 16 2/3 RPM. Engineers tried to make the device resistant to bumps by using springs and special needles. But roads were rough, cars were loud, and the needle was fragile. One little pothole, and the music would skip, or the needle would fly off completely. In addition to the skipping, there were other problems. Records wore out quickly from vibrations and heat inside the car. You had to carry a collection of vinyl with you, not very convenient. The mechanism was bulky, unreliable, and expensive. Most importantly, by the 1960s, cassette tapes appeared, followed by 8-track cartridges and compact car stereos, all of which were far more practical. In the end, vinyl players in cars lasted only a couple of years, and most manufacturers quickly abandoned the idea. With audio tech advancing rapidly, putting a turntable in a car turned out to be a step backward, not forward. Today, these devices are true rarities, collector's items and prized possessions for vintage audio lovers. People who love vinyl might dream of having a turntable in their car, but the reality is, the road just wasn't made for records. Still, the idea itself is fascinating, a reminder of a time when engineers weren't afraid to experiment, even with the craziest concepts. If you've ever driven an older car, especially one from before the 2000s, you probably noticed the ashtray. It was as common as a cup holder is today. But sit in a modern vehicle, and it's gone. So what happened? Where did the ashtrays go, and why did they disappear? In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, smoking was a normal part of everyday life. People smoked at home, at work, on airplanes, and of course, in their cars. Car manufacturers included ashtrays by default, in the front, the back, sometimes even with lights. Usually alongside a built-in cigarette lighter. It was standard. Smoking while driving was completely normal, especially on long trips. Starting in the early 2000s, things changed quickly. Smoking became socially discouraged. Countries introduced laws banning smoking in public places and around children. More people were quitting cigarettes. Automakers realized there was no point in adding ashtrays if barely anyone used them. Now, ashtrays are usually an optional accessory you have to request. Most of the time, they're replaced by cup holders or small storage compartments. Today's